Today I'm bracing up the back of this bird's eye maple mini jumbo that I'm building. But I thought I'd show you folks what I do, how I go about, uh, I won't say voicing my back as much as I'd like to say bringing out of the back as much as I feel that I can get out of it. And I think that means reaching for a mixture of frequencies when I tap on it here and there, and quite a lot of sustain. That's pretty much what I'm after. Um, the selection of wood for the back and rims, of course, that's what's going to give you uh, a reflective quality or a warm quality, bright as opposed to warm and so on. So uh, as I mentioned, this is bird's eye maple. All of my bracing in this particular case is Sitka spruce, and it's 21/64 of an inch thick. And right now I have it standing 9/16 high at the number 1 and 2, and just over that at the others. Let me pull a measurement there. And I'm at 5/8 of an inch tall with these two. That may drop down some. I'm not sure. It depends on what we get. Now, the first thing that I did when I pulled this thing out of the go bar was I looked around and tried to identify a nodal point. That is, a point where I could grab it with my thumb and forefinger, and I can wrap on it and at least get as much out of it as it would yield. And I'm getting a short duration and, of course, a higher pitch because the bracing is still, it's all there. It's at maximum height. It's at full thickness. So that pitch is going to be up. But there is a little bit of sustain there, which is kind of a nice direction to be in, but we're nowhere near done. So the first thing that I'm going to do is note what I just heard, and I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to start arching these braces. In other words, taking material off of each side of the brace to eliminate mass, and that will cause the pitch to drop. I'm not going to plane these down in height right away because we want to maintain as much of that stiffness as we can. So we're going to stay at full height. So I'm going to move you in a little bit closer so that you can see what I'm doing, and let's see how this comes out. Now, I've started this process already before I started filming. My habit is to go in one direction on all left side and then turn it around, and just makes things convenient, I guess. It's my way of doing it. You can do this probably any way you want to. But I'm using this little palm plane, I guess you could call it. These are inexpensive. These are this German brand, Kunz, I believe is the correct pronunciation, Kunz. They're not very expensive, and they are hard to adjust the iron to get them to cut just the way you want them to, but they're not too bad, and they come at a decent price. So I'm just gonna, what I call this is church dooring. I'm gonna church door or arrow point those braces up, and I like to have all of my braces the same width from one end to the other. Many years ago, I had a Martin D18 and I had a D1228, and I don't know if they still do this or not, but in those days, this is back in the late 60s and early 70s, those two braces down here at the lower bout were only about a half an inch in height, if I remember correctly, but they were about 3/4 of an inch wide. I never really understood that. I don't know what they were after, unless it was just a technique for eliminating warranty issues. I'm not sure. But I like to have narrower braces all the way up through. So, and that practice on Martin's part may have been born out of the notion that a lower wide brace promotes lower frequency, but I think that really means a relationship. The height of a brace in relation to its thickness changes that high-low frequency thing. By intentionally making it wider, you're still just adding more mass. So, I don't know, just a guess. So, as you can see, I'm just working this down, And I'm concentrating on the side of the brace, not the top. And I'm trying to come toward the center. When I get about to the center with this, I'll look it over and see. Now I've pretty well completed church dooring or arrow pointing these braces. And as I pick this up, just from doing that much, I'm hearing an interesting length in sustain and some drop in pitch because I've lost mass. So the pitch, the basic pitch is going to go down. Now, frequency is not all the big important thing. We're not after a specific frequency. If we did that, we'd be in danger of creating wolf tones in the instrument. At any rate, I've done that, and you probably noticed, or I hope you noticed in the previous scene, that I had my back clamped down for my own safety and so that I could work this without buggering things up all over the place. But I've released it from the clamps, and just before I came back on camera, I went around and just finessed things a little bit, checking for symmetry and so on. And sometimes the grain direction will work against you, and you got to turn the piece around and rework a little bit. So that's what I have been doing off camera. I see a little bit of a high spot right there. I can take some mass off there. And, you want this to look as workmanlike as you can get it. You just do the best you can do. And, it's all good practice. Now, I don't know whether you've noticed them there because they're very small, but you'll see at the top of these braces, there's a little graphite dot there, pencil mark. I put pencil marks on the top of each brace 3 inches back from the body line, except in this number 2 brace, I just came back 2 3/4. And I'm going to ramp those off. Now, that's going to make a much larger change right now than anything else we're going to do. That's going to change the pitch of this thing, and it's going to change the sustain. Now for this, I do want to make sure that I clamp my work down because you're putting quite a bit of force on the tools and the equipment and the whole schmear. So I want to fasten that down so that I have good control. I like to use this paring chisel for the purpose. You can use any chisel you want to as long as it's sharp. And I'm going to ramp the end of the brace down until I get it to this thickness. I have this little tool that I made. It's just a dado, if you will, cut on the bottom of a block. This happens to be 3/32 of an inch deep. And I just use this to gauge the thickness of that tail end. So I'm going to go through and ramp those off. Simple enough process. If you haven't done this before, or if you've only done it a couple of times, this might be a little frustrating, but you can learn after a while to get your motion just right, and you can make that work just great. It's not too hard to do. And I'm checking as I go down, just paring away a little bit at a time until I get down to where I want to be. And within a 64th of an inch right there. And there I am. I'm home. So I'm going to continue to do that to the rest of these. And you do want to be careful because sometimes the run out in a brace may come from the end toward you, and that can cause that to split. So when you make your initial cuts, work out here first because that's where you're removing most of the material, and then work your way back with your chisel. But watch out for that run out because if that wants to split away, you may even have to find a little different technique to make that happen. But as you progress backwards, you're cutting downward on that grain. Even if there's run out that's working against you, you may recover from some of it, and sometimes you just don't. And you may even have to, in certain instances, come from the opposite side and work your way up, which is counter to the logic of the whole thing. But sometimes that's what the run out of the grain may do. On the other hand, if the grain run out is that severe, I might consider looking at that beforehand and not putting that brace in the guitar. So we're probably just about there, and my gauge says we're so close it's ridiculous. And we're home. All right, I'm going to finish the rest of these off camera and we'll be back. So I've finished ramping off my braces, and now as I listen to this, I'm getting more sustain. The pitch is dropping a little bit, and I'm finding as I take my little hammer here, as I tap from one brace to another, I get sustain, sustain, deadness right there. There's something happening, but it's not terribly alive. So as I search around the back for those different things, I may want to do some refining. And I prefer to do that by taking material from the sides of the brace as opposed to lengthening the ramps. Now, I could probably bring the pitch down a little bit or something, and I might increase sustain if I lengthen those ramps, but you're removing an awful lot of mass and you're taking it from the top of the brace, so you're making it effectively weaker, which is something you probably want to exercise some caution over. So I'm going to switch from this rather coarse plane for this kind of work to my little palm plane here, which I've shown this in another video, but this thing is quite nice. It will get into that small space and work those braces down. And so I'm going to see what I can do with this one. And my work is not clamped down because I'm turning this thing constantly, trying to search my way around here for what I can do. So I'm just going to fiddle with this brace for a couple of minutes and see if I can't get some improvement in that region of the back. What I'm after mostly right now is sustain. When you tap on this thing, you know, you hear a predominant frequency, but you're hearing a lot of harmonics with that. And I'm not concerned about frequency as much as I'm concerned about richness and sustain. As long as that frequency, that main monopole response that you hear is not exactly on the tone series. If it's, you know, if it's a B, B flat, and so on, A, B, C, that I probably wouldn't want that, because if you play that note, the thing is going to vibrate wildly on you. And it'll also dump its energy very quickly. Probably want to avoid something like that happening, but when you get this coupled in with the rest of the system, that's going to change a little bit too, and you may have to do some tweaking after the body is assembled to bring it back to life. So did a little bit of work on that. Let's see if we perceive any change in that brace. Ever so slight. I'm hearing a slight improvement in that, and these are much better, the others. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep tweaking each one of these braces to see if I can lengthen that duration of vibration that I'm hearing in that. And I'm also feeling this as I tap on this, whether it be with my knuckle or my fingers, or, you know, whatever your technique is. I made this thing the other day because I thought this might bring some clarity, and it does seem to offer some information, so to speak. But I'm also feeling, as well as hearing, I'm feeling what's happening in here, because you can sense vibration with your hand really, really well. And I think that's important too. You know, use all of your senses. I wish these things would impart an improved odor when they get down to about the right place. So I'm going to refine this a little bit more and see if I can maximize it from here. But I think for you to watch me to do that, you'd be just as well to take a nap. So I've finished all of the refining that I can do with my hand planes and chisels and so on. I worked on this #1 brace, and I've got some improvement, but I've taken the sides off as much as I can. I did ramp it back just a little bit more, which is not a favorite thing to do, but it seems to have made a minor improvement. Not all that much, but if you listen to that brace, that's kind of a dud. You listen to that next one and the next, and you get a much more pleasant ring out of those others than you do that. But as I said, I don't care to go any further. But I am going to sand my work. Now my planes are very sharp and those surfaces feel good, but I like to remove all the little facets that remain there from planing. And keep in mind that as you sand, you're still moving material off that. You're still reducing the mass of those braces, albeit very slowly. Um, and so as you do this, stop every once in a while and listen to what you have, because you may find some positive changes in there. Now, I guess probably if you haven't done this a bunch of times, this all begs the question, well, what is it that you want to hear? Or what do I want to hear? What do I, as the viewer, what am I looking for? What do I want to hear? Well, that's a real tough question, and I'm going to move the camera a little bit and provide you with hopefully a better answer. So reiterating just once more, I've taken this back as far as I can take it. I'm happy enough at this point, but I said as far as I can take it. Someone else might take it further. Someone else might take it in a different direction than I have. I'm uncertain about that. It would certainly depend on who the builder is. But I think the answer for any of you who are new builders or are searching for answers about this, as I did, and as I still am searching for better answers about this, is I'll talk about that familiar end again that was mentioned in Kumpiano and Nadelson's book. As you keep practicing this and you keep doing it, keep listening, recording notes and so on if you have to, and just keep tapping, listening, and feeling. Use your fingers to feel that vibration. What I'm after in particular is I'm going to get a predominant tone, that's for sure, but what I'm after is a mixture of frequency, and I'm after sustain. That's my big thing. I've used a very hard, dense wood, maple, because I want this guitar to have a lot of punch. I want this to be a fairly percussive guitar, so I'm using something that's going to produce a nice brightness. So there it is. I want to encourage everyone out there also who is new at this. There's an awful lot of angst, I think, on the part of any of us building for the first time or first few times. There was with me for the first several guitars about, are you going to make the best sounding guitars? Is this the right way to get the best sounding guitar? I want to clue you in on something. And this should be a celebration for all of you who are pretty new at this. Go to any high-end guitar store and listen to any number of factory guitars from $300 to $500 all the way up to $3,000 or $4,000 and maybe even higher. And no matter what you play, you're going to play 20 duds, you're going to play 5 or 6 that are real nice, and you're going to play 1 in 100 that just booms and shimmers, and it's going to be the one that everybody would like to buy. That's not intentional. That one guitar is an accident. Manufacturers build by a formula. They cannot afford the time, if they're going to sell a guitar for a price and have no few or no warranty issues, They can't afford to do what you and I as individual builders are doing. So the point of that little dissertation was take heart and feel encouraged, because even if you didn't get the very best out of this that the wood and the braces are physically capable of doing, you're probably going to end up with a really nice sounding guitar. It might not be part of the, the 1% of the 1%, but you're still going to get good results. And as you practice, you're going to get a lot better if you just pay attention, keep your work clean, and use your ears and your senses, and you'll get there. And remember this too. I don't give a rat's hat what somebody else's guitar sounds like. When you find the sound that you like and that you want to hear, that's the sound you work toward building, and don't worry about the rest. Okay, I'm getting off the soapbox now. Thanks for watching my video. I hope this was helpful to beginning or sort of intermediate builders. Kevin Ledoux, the Pragmatic Luthier. Daylight savings time here today. It's almost time to close the shop and it's still daylight. I don't know what to do with myself. Anyway, maybe I'll take a walk around the township of Triangle, where I am still the biggest manufacturer of guitars. Thanks again for watching. Please like the video if you would, and if you've not subscribed, I would ask that you do so. Take care.